What's up, more church? Yo, that video is so good. I want to dance, but I can't really dance. So I was saving you guys from that embarrassment, saving myself from that embarrassment, but it was hard. But hey, I'm so excited to be here at the center. Y'all, I'm amazed at all that our team has done in such a short amount of time to get us moved in here. And y'all, it's going phenomenal. Aren't you so amazed and impressed by what they're able to do, man? I'm glad that you're here, that you've said, hey, I know it's different, but I'm going to show up. I'm going to lean in. I know it's summertime and you could be at the pool. It was 105 yesterday, like Texas. What are you doing? But y'all have said, hey, I'm committed to lean in and grow together. And so I'm so excited and grateful that you're here today. You know, here at the center, here this summer, we've determined and decided that we're going to go all the way up into all the more that God has for us, that nothing can stop us, that it's not about a building, but it's about understanding that God is with us and he's for us, and so nothing can be against us. And so we're going to lean in and grow together into all he has for us. And I love summer. It's my favorite. I love the hot weather. I love being able to be at the pool or maybe drive to the beach or like have some time just to relax and change the schedule and shift it up a little bit. One of my favorite things of summer is camp. When I was a kid, I got to go to kids camp, and then when I went to high school and middle school, youth camp. And can I tell you that God met me and changed my life in so many ways every single year when I was at camp. And our youth students leave in 9 days for their youth camp, y'all. They're the pink team this year. They're getting excited. They were at my house last night, tie-dye and t-shirts and painting socks pink and doing all. They're going to represent, but most importantly, they're going to lean in and learn all that God has for them. And moms and dads in the room, I'm representing more kids today with my t-shirt swag merch. If you haven't checked out our new store, you should. It's incredible. But kids camp is less than a month away. And I want to encourage you, moms and dads, that if you have not yet said, hey, I'm going to sign my kids up, send them to kids camp. It's not quite. It's a little over a month away. Whatever. These are the days. That is what they are. You should sign them up. Don't let finances be a reason that you don't come talk to us if that's a struggle, or if you've got many kids, we're going to help you figure it out. But can I tell you, the greatest investment you can make in your kids this summer is not making sure they have a Hawaiian Falls season pass. It's not making sure they get to ride the new ride at Six Flags. It's not making sure that they get the free drink Slurpee thing at the gas station, but it's instead saying, hey, I'm going to invest in your spiritual development this year. Can I tell you, they will grow in their fun, their faith, and their friendships while they're there, and their life will be forever changed. The Bible promises us those who are planted in the house of the Lord will flourish. And I'm telling you, those kids right now are learning some deep truth that they're going to take with them the rest of their life. But kids camp is a big deal. I know it's hard to get them to stay the night somewhere else and do something different and pack a bag and like, are they going to shower and wear deodorant? No, they're not. But that's okay, because God is still going to meet them. He loves them even in their stinky, smelly selves. He loves them and has so much more for them. And I am saying a lot of words about it because I believe in it. And I hope you hear me and didn't tune me out. And so after service today, I can't wait to check and see all the people that have registered their kids to be at kids camp. I'm so excited about it. This summer at Moore, we are covering the Sermon on the Mount. Our series All the Way Up is talking about the story of Jesus' most popular, most famous sermon that he did in Matthew. It starts in Matthew 5, 6, and 7. Last week, Pastor Trustin gave you homework to read all 3 chapters. How many of you did it? Okay, that's a decent number. The thing is, at the center, I can actually see you. At the pig, I could pretend like I saw you, but here I actually can. So if you didn't get a chance, that's okay. It'll take just like 10 minutes, or slow down and really dig in, maybe 30 minutes. Read those 3 chapters, because that's what we'll be covering this summer. I'm excited about it because this is a message that Jesus spoke specifically, it says, to his disciples, to his followers, that he went in and said, hey, this is for you. This is something I want you to know. And throughout the Sermon on the Mount, he's redefining the culture of Christianity. Like, they didn't have that yet, Christianity, but he's redefining what it looks like to be a follower of God. And in their culture before Jesus, they had all these rules that they had to follow. Over 600 rules about what they could eat and drink and how they could dress. or cut their hair, what they could touch, what they couldn't. It was tricky, it was expensive, and the truth is, it was impossible. It was impossible to fully follow every rule every single time so they could be connected to God. And Jesus knew that. That's why he came, to go against the cultural grain. And all the words he's sharing as we read them throughout this summer, they feel like, yeah, cool, these are the teachings of Jesus. But in that time, they were shocking revelations. They were so different and unique. In fact, in Matthew 7:28, it says, when Jesus had finished saying all these things, it's the very last verse of the Sermon on the Mount. When Jesus had finished saying these things, the crowds were amazed at his teaching. They were not amazed because he had done like a Trustin Baba level sermon illustration. They were not amazed because the bathrooms were big and white and spacious like they are here at the center. They were not amazed because they were in a perfectly air-conditioned building and his LED wall looked perfect behind him and all of his scripts and all of his notes were just so that they could write it down perfectly and easily. They were amazed because the words he spoke were truth and they could know it, they could feel it, they were receiving it, and the words that he spoke were going to bring them life. They were going to change everything. And they were amazed. And can I tell you that we still, in our time in this season right now, can be amazed at what God is speaking to us? That in the midst of a difficult season of life, a trying time in our country, that God's still speaking fresh things to us, that we can be amazed as we lean in and learn what he has for us. And so in the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus is moving us. Pastor talked to us about it last week. Beyond the rigidity, like ritualness of rules, into a rhythm of relationship with God. And this was a heart motivation that he's talking about, not a legal motivation. He said, I want to know more about what's inside of you than what you're doing on the outside. This rhythm of relationship, man, it's such a good truth that as I was reading through those 3 chapters this week, I kept thinking about it over and over again, that the legal motivation versus the heart motivation speaks so clearly as you read these chapters. I was thinking about how in my marriage, we just celebrated 20 years of marriage, and that's such an exciting, great thing. But the reason it's still so exciting, and I still love my husband so much, is not because I have determined to hold the vows that I said on my wedding day. On my wedding day, I spoke vows that I would love him and cherish him and honor him in sickness and health, in trying times, in difficult times, in poor times, in rich times. And it's true that I've worked diligently and he's worked diligently for us to hold those rules. But the reason I do it is not any longer because those are the vows I took, but it's because we have deep relationship with each other. That I love him deeply, and now when he's sick, I want to bring him a cup of tea. I want to make soup for him because I want him to be loved and feel cherished and taken care of. I want to spend money on things I shouldn't and things that I don't really need, but because I honor him and I cherish him, I'm not going to go just willy-nilly spend our whole bank account without actually consulting him on the things that we should spend. Now, we all know, guys, that we all do some things here where we mess it up from time to time. And Jesus knew that too. That even though we've asked Jesus into our heart, it doesn't mean we're going to stop sinning, that there's going to be moments where we're still going to screw it up. But because of the rhythm of relationship, we stay connected with each other. And so I hope you understand that's what Jesus is trying to get them to understand. And so today we're going to talk about the first few verses of Matthew chapter 5. They're known as the BEATITUDES. The Latin word is beatudo, okay, which means what? It means blessedness. The Greek translation means, oh, how happy. Like, it's not blessing like a gift necessarily. It's, oh, how happy. Oh, how blessed your life will be. Oh, how happy your life will be. And this is the only place in all of Jesus' teachings where he repeats the exact same phrase 8 different times back to back to back. And in this day, that phrase of blessedness, blessed are, is what we'll read today. It had an understanding, a deep, powerful meaning to them of like divine joy, of perfect happiness. That this is how we can be in perfect happiness with Jesus. You know, in our life, we try so hard. We show up and we try to acquire so many things that will bring us happiness. We might go to a counselor hoping that will help us solve and fix our problems. We take different drugs to help us be happy. We can try all these different things, but Jesus is saying, no, this way, following me, following these principles, this is how you'll actually live a happy, a blessed, a joy-filled life. And so we're going to look at it today. Matthew 5, verse 1 says, when Jesus saw the crowds, he went up, all the way up, on a mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him and he began to teach them. Again, he's speaking to his followers, not just to everybody, but specifically, hey, we're in relationship, and so this is how it needs to go. If we're going to be connected to each other, if you're going to be representing me to the world, I want you to understand what it looks like for you to be a follower of me. And these Beatitudes, they speak to a heart condition for a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. Pastor talked to us about how it's the phrasing of the kingdom of heaven, what that means, what it looks like. If you missed last week's message, you got to go back and get some foundation. So go check it out on YouTube. And our team got it and captured it, and it's there for you to watch. And that way you can follow along in the whole series with us. But he's got a lot of disciples there. This is not just the 12 disciples like we read about and know, but this is all of his team of followers. You know, here at More Church, we have a staff team that work together. And what I know about our team is that there's lots of different personalities on the team. So there on the mountainside with Jesus, there were lots of different personalities that were hanging out with him. You know, for our team, in fact, I've had them take different personality tests over the years because it helps me understand as I get to be a part of helping lead our team. It helps me understand them and their personality, the way they think, their natural default. Like, you might have taken one in your job place. Maybe you've taken one just for fun on the internet or one of those Facebook, right? Question, what color are you, right? What's your number on the Enneagram? What's your Myers-Briggs indicator, right? But it helps us understand our natural default. Because I'm not going to ask someone or expect someone who's a 1 on the Enneagram to have conflict and handle it the same way as someone who's an 8 on the Enneagram would. I'm not going to. I'm not going to be frustrated when someone who scores a woo and a relator as their like strength finder. I'm not going to be frustrated when they're not super excited about the budget and finance meeting. The same way somebody who's on the strength finder would score high if they had like strategy and detail. Like those are their personalities. But at our church, on our staff team here at Moore, we also have values that we hold. We have values that we say, if you're on this team, these are the values we stand by. These are the way we do what we do. And so it may not be your natural default, your personality, the way you're just wired, but if you're going to be on this team, you're going to hold these values. And if you don't, sorry, this is the standard. You don't get to be a part of the team anymore. And this is the same thing that's happening here. Jesus is sharing these Beatitudes, and as we read them at first glance, it can be like, oh yeah, I like that one. That goes with my personality. These are not things that go just cherry pick which one you like. These are all together in all-encompassing values that as followers of Jesus, we hold. The standard Jesus is setting to say, hey, if you're going to come and follow me, if you're going to be a follower of me, these are how we're going to do what we do. And again, reminder, this is a standard of heart obedience, not of legal obedience. He's not saying do all this because if you do it, then you can stay on the team, so follow the rules. He's saying, let's get in rhythm, baby. Let's be in relationship with each other, and you're going to want to follow these standards more and more and more. And so again, these are not to oppress us, but to help us build on our relationship. And if you notice, and I'm going to help us notice it along the way, that these Beatitudes are progressive. They're taking us somewhere. They're taking us on a journey, and we kind of need each one in order to go to the next one. And so we'll start. Again, Jesus went and he went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples came to him, and he began to teach them. The first Beatitude, the first blessing he speaks, he says, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. So blessed are the poor, right? That's when I was young. That's when I read it and how I understood it. But actually, this is not financial poverty. This is spiritual poverty that Jesus is speaking about. This is saying I'm poverty-stricken before God. You know, we sing that song, Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. This is understanding that without Jesus, I'm nothing. That without him, I'm poor in my spirit because I cannot do it. I have nothing to offer God. I need everything from him. And so when we'll say, hey, I can't earn my way, he's living in a culture. You have to understand how shocking this even sentence would be, because he's living in a culture where they're trying to earn their way, where everything they do from the minute they wake up to the time they lay down is to be in the right rules to be in relationship with Jesus. But instead he's saying, when you'll just understand that you can't earn it anyway, that you can't be all that you're supposed to be in life without me. Apart from me, the Bible tells us you can do nothing. Even if you devote every minute of your day and your life to him, you're not good enough, and I'm not good enough. They're not good enough. It's countercultural, and the Pharisees, that's what they spent their life doing, making sure everyone was following the rules. But instead, he's saying, look, you can't earn a spot in heaven unless your heart has an understanding of how much you actually need me, that you are poor in spirit without me. And when you get that, that's how you'll inherit the kingdom of heaven. That's how you'll be a part of the kingdom. And so if you're gonna be on your happiest journey with me, just realize you're a mess without me. That's what Jesus is saying here. And what I love is that he's pointing out, hey, if you're a mess, and when you recognize that you're a mess, that's when I actually want to hang out with you. What a cool thing that Jesus is not once you get it all perfectly put together, then come be in relationship with me. But this is proof right here when you hear us say that we don't have to go to God cleaned up, we go to God to get cleaned up. This is the proof right here in the pudding of where he's saying, I want you close to me. The next one says, blessed are those who mourn, for they will be comforted. And when we read it at first glance, yes, that's awesome to know that when people die and go to heaven, that because of our relationship with Jesus, now we'll get to see them again in heaven. But that's not really all that it means. What it actually means, he's not talking about mourning physical death, but he's talking about mourning spiritual death. That we're dying to ourselves, that we're recognizing that we were a wretch, and therefore we have a broken heart before God, saying, God, I'm so sorry for how I was before, for what I did before, for the sins in my life. Now, this is not shame. This is just, I'm sorry. He's not putting shame on them. He's not saying you should be so sad because you're pathetic. No, he's saying if you'll mourn, if you will actually have a broken heart before me, I will bring you comfort. I won't bring you shame. I'll bring you peace. I'll bring you understanding that I'm with you and I'm for you and that I still have mighty things in store in your life. If you'll just have a little regret and a little repentance, that you'll actually come before me, man, we can live in all the fullness of what I have for you. You know, we all have, those of you who have kids in the room, if you have more than one, you probably have the one that would touch the light socket and then you would say, don't do that again. You could get hurt, right? And you have the one who instantly, if they started to touch it, you would say, are you about to touch that again? And they would break down and cry, right? And then you have the one who's I'm gonna touch it and look right at you while I do it, right? What Jesus is saying is be more like that first kid. Be more understanding, my dad has told me these things because he's trying to protect me, because he loves me, because he's trying to take care of my life. And so, I'm so brokenhearted that I sinned before him, not because he shamed me, but because he loves me. And so when we get that, when we really understand it, when we're transparent enough to admit it, the Bible tells us we've all sinned. We've all been a mess. But when we're transparent enough to admit it and then to mourn over it and repent for it, he's like, I'll comfort you with my peace, with my grace, with my mercy, and my righteousness. Next thing it says, blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. So again, we're on a journey. I admit that I'm a wretch. I'm a mess without God. I'm nothing. I'm poor in spirit. I repent to Jesus because I'm grieved by the decisions I made before I fully knew him and understood why he wanted that good, better life for me. And so because of that, now I'm in a humble place. And he's saying, that's the place I want you to be. I want you to be in a meek and a humble space. And again, this is countercultural. Because in that time, the Pharisees are walking around all haughty and proud with their checklists, making sure you're following the rules. And so, of course, you're trying to shove your way forward to be like, look how good I am. Look at the sacrifice I brought. Look how my clothes are all made of the same material, right? All of these things that the rules made them follow. And Jesus is saying, no, it's actually the meek heart that I'm after. Meekness, it's a realization that I am very small before an almighty holy God. And to be a person that can control our words and our emotions and our actions, even in the midst, our body language, right? Even in the midst of like the moment of wanting to retaliate from someone who is doing us wrong. And that's really hard. And this one is one that reminds me again strongly that this cannot be a personality trait. That no matter your personality, God is saying, I want you to have a meek heart. For those of us who are bold and loud and get it done, it is a very hard struggle because sometimes we look at that and we're like, God, you made me confident. I ain't trying to be weak, right? I ain't trying to be all just submissive and quiet. I'm not going to let them take advantage of me, right? What? But God said, no, this is, again, a posture of obedience of your heart. That this is a moment where you will understand. This is some character trait that I want you to choose to embrace it. That even the strongest, boldest personality can have a meek heart. In fact, the best ones do. You know, leading is hard. Leading a church is hard. Leading a church that does things different is hard. Leading a church that does things different and doesn't have a full building to meet in every single week is hard. But the only way that we as a church and as a staff team can continue to lead well is to continue to be strong in meekness. And we're led by one of the greatest, most meek pastors and leaders that exist. He's bold and he's strong, but he's meek. Not long ago, I sat in a room with the two strongest, most boldest, most get-it-done men that I know, Pastor Trustin and my husband, Aaron, and I watched them respond in meekness while being told things that were unkind, that were unfair. And the truth is, their response in meekness made a bigger difference to all the people than if they had just been mad and put people in their place like they could have and responded in the way that was justified for them to respond. But instead, their meekness showed their character. And that's what Jesus is about here in this whole explanation. He's saying, I want your character to reflect the heart of God. And if you'll grab onto these principles, you'll be able to do that. You see, I want to be clear that in that meeting, they did not get run over. Like, they still gave their opinion. They still said what was truth. But they acted in a way that I'm really so proud of, that they're the two men in my corner when I need to walk into a fight, because I know that they have meek hearts and that they'll walk in the truth and the wisdom of what God's giving them. Their boldness, it helps them in so many areas. They're get it done, take care of it dudes, but their greatest strength is in their meekness. And the opposite of strength isn't meekness. Meekness is strength. Meekness isn't weakness, it's just strength with a little bit of sweetness. It's something my pastor, my friend Trustin, reminded us of years ago. In fact, back at Aristide, he first said it, and I looked through all my videos and pictures and I couldn't find it. And then I text Pastor Tim and I said, do you remember when he said this really great phrase at the Matlock building? And Tim instantly actually knew and responded. And he said, yes, it was in Macho Man week 2. Then later he told me you can search on Dropbox and find it really quickly, and still amazed, you're still the greatest. But, and so I am not a rapper, though sometimes he is, and our team found this video and then made a little kitschy, fun thing for us to watch to remind us to be meek.
Meekness isn't weakness, it's strength with a little bit of sweetness. Meekness isn't weakness. It's strength with a little bit of sweetness. Being meek doesn't mean that you're weak. Being meek doesn't mean that you're weak. Put some sweetness on yourself. Put some sweetness on yourself.
It's really good, right? They did a good job. He hadn't seen that till just now, so it was good. Meekness is not weakness. It's strength under control. It's strength submitted to the Holy Spirit, to God, saying, hey, God, speak through me in this moment. I'm hurt. I'm upset. I know that in my actual strength, I could bow up and say some things or do some things right now, but instead, I'm going to trust you. And Jesus is saying, hey, I get it. You want to inherit the earth. You want everything that the world has to offer. You want the position. You want the job. You want the title. You want the salary. You want the spouse, right? You want all the things. You want the recognition. You want the influence. He's like, hold on, try meekness first. Because the Bible's clear that he's the one who promotes. He's the one who lifts us up. And he, again, is looking at the inside of our heart. And he's like, try meekness. Trust me to work it out. If you want to be big, be small. If you want to be known, get to know some other people around you. If you want to be important, why don't you instead try to serve some other people and let them feel important for a change and see how it works out? So again, we're walking through the Beatitudes. There's a progression of what Jesus is teaching us, that I'm poor in spirit. I can't do it on my own, that I need Jesus. There's this eternal condition. And so I mourn my weakness. I mourn my struggle and my sin. But Jesus, I understand that you are the one that leads me to truth and to understanding, and you lead me to everlasting life. And so because of that, I'm humble before you. I'm a humble servant. Jesus, speak through me, work through me, help me. And from this humble position with God, we truly can start to hunger and thirst for everything he has for us. The next one, it says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they will be filled. You know, we hunger and thirst for a lot of things. Like in Texas, we thirst for water because it's 105 degrees, right? We hunger and thirst for approval. We hunger and thirst for the job and the promotion, the house, the car, the vacation. Y'all, we got a vacation planned. And yesterday I was like, Lord, get me to July 3rd because I want to go on my vacation. I'm hungry for it. I'm excited for some time of rest with my people, right? There's lots of things in the world that we hunger and thirst for. But isn't it funny that the more things we get, the more we acquire, the more we hunger for more? You see, here at More Church, we believe that there's more, but there's more with Jesus. That Jesus has more for us. But it's not an earthly more, because earthly more just leads to a struggle and an anxiousness for more. But when we have Jesus, we have contentment, and then we strive for the more he has for us. We hunger and thirst for righteousness. What does that mean, Pastor? That means we hunger and thirst now to follow all the 600 rules? Let's be clear. What he wants, again, is a heart condition. He's after our heart. It's not a legal obligation, but it's a heart obligation to say, the more I get to know you, the more I just want to be like you. I want to follow the example that you're setting. I want to follow the things you have in place because I understand it's for my good. I understand it's for the more you have for me. And though I've been hungering and thirsting for some of the things of this world, I'll just hunger and thirst for the righteousness you have. Because without you, I'm nothing. But with you, I can be all that you've called me to be. I can be everything. And these guys, they had sat with Jesus. And I think it's so interesting because they had the greatest teacher to exist in following Jesus because it's him. And yet they still were sinners. Romans 5:8 says, God demonstrated his own love for us in this, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So they're still sinning while following Jesus because they're human. It's the human condition that all of us have sinned. Romans 3:10, there's no one righteous, not even one. Romans 3:23, later in that chapter, all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. Later in this same chapter, Jesus says, I tell you, unless your righteousness surpasses that of the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, those whose literal job is to follow and protect the laws, you will certainly not enter the kingdom of heaven. Now be clear here, he's not saying none of you will enter the kingdom of heaven. He's saying, accept me. accept my righteousness, accept my forgiveness that comes through salvation in me. Because good people, they don't go to heaven, right? Forgiven people are the people that go to heaven. He loves us, he's for us, but we have to accept his forgiveness and his righteousness in order to live the life that he calls us to. And so if we'll do that, if we'll hunger and thirst for his righteousness, then that's the best piece of the life that we can live. And so if we want to be full, if we want to have actual fullness, then we have to stop chasing and just submit and surrender to him. My pursuit of my righteousness, it leads me to these next few things because I'm living now a happy, a blessed, a filled life. And my hope, Jesus is saying to them, my hope for you is then that you won't become a self-righteous religious jerk, but instead that the character of God will start to really reflect in you. Once you admit that you're nothing without me, once you mourn your sin, once you take on my righteousness and you continue to walk with me. And so the next one, blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. That they will show mercy to others because you understand what Jesus has done for you. I accept the righteousness, but now I don't walk around proud and so full of it that I think I've got it all together. But instead, every person I meet, every person I encounter, I extend mercy to them rather than judgment. You see, mercy is the ability to have compassion and forgive someone that you have the power to punish. There's times in our life where someone hurts us, someone does us wrong, someone betrays us, and we have the power to punish them. We have the power to say, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. In fact, I know some people, I'm going to let them know who you are, and so that they don't talk to you too. We have the power sometimes to hold things over other people in our life, but mercy says, hey, I get it. I was just like you. I've been there before. And so I'm going to extend to you grace, mercy, forgiveness, love, acceptance instead of the punishment that I could give. And we've preached on this many times before, but let's read it again. Blessed are the merciful, for they will be shown mercy. The Bible's really clear that if we're unwilling to forgive, then how can God our Father forgive us? Because the example he set for us is that he died for all of us. Like I sinned for sure yesterday, but probably also this morning, right? Like we know that we have screwed things up along the way, that even in our attempt to become more like him, that in our humanness, I'm gonna disappoint someone. I'm going to say that I'm going to get this done, and then I'm actually going to waste too much time and not get it done. And my hope is that people will extend me mercy. And so then when I encounter others who maybe hurt me or don't follow through exactly what they said for me, that they'll extend me mercy, right? That I'll extend it to them and they will extend it to me, because that's the way that Jesus asks us to live. When we understand what Jesus did for us, that our righteousness comes only through forgiveness in him, then we better show mercy to other people. We better forgive them when they ask us to and when they don't. We better extend the mercy to them. Next one says, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Again, this is not outward righteousness. It's inward holiness, a pure heart. Hebrews 12:14 says, without holiness, no one can see the Lord. But you see, God is more concerned with who you are than what you actually do. Yes, he doesn't like the behaviors that you know you shouldn't do that have consequences and bring pain and destruction. But more importantly, he wants you to have a pure heart before him. You know, one of our church values, one of the verses that we hold dear, and it's the number one value of our staff team that you must hold that standard first and foremost, is Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything we do flows from it. Every bit of who we are comes out of the abundance of our heart. The NLT version says it determines the course of your life. The ESV version says, for from it flows the springs of life. And Jesus is saying, these are the principles, the character traits of someone who's following me. And this is how people will identify you. And so you got to have a pure heart so that they can actually see me, see a reflection of who I am. And so, man, he's like, don't be claiming to be my disciple, but then going around acting like a fool and being a punk and being a jerk because your heart is not pure. And can I tell you, you can hide it on the inside for a minute, but eventually what's on the inside starts showing on the outside. You ever met someone and you hadn't seen them in a while, and then you're like, whoa, what's going on? And not really anything's changed, but something's changed. And on their outsides, you can see that something is not right on the inside. And for some of us, we have like a spiritual gift that we can see that more quickly than other people. But the truth is, I've had to identify in my own life, when I've looked back at pictures of myself, I didn't gain weight in that season because I was actually eating bad and like making bad. I gained weight because I wasn't dealing with some things in my heart. And so even though it was something happening on the outside of me, it was really something happening on the inside of me. And Jesus is like, I want you to be all that I've called you to be. And I want you to reflect the truth of who I am. And so you better work on your insides, because whether you like it or not, it'll start showing on your outsides. It's what's in your heart that counts. One of my favorite verses, King David spoke in Psalms 139. It says, search me, God, know my heart, test me, know my anxious thoughts, see if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting. You see, Jesus is more concerned about your character than he even is about your competence. He's like, I want to know what's inside you. I want to know how you're actually feeling in your heart. I want you to focus on a pure heart, and that's how you'll see me. That's how you'll see God. That's how we'll be connected. And again, this is not how to get saved. These Beatitudes are not a list of how to get saved. This is now that you are saved, here's how we're going to live like Jesus. And I'm saying that we have to pay attention to the inside of us, so that we reflect all of who God is to all of those around us. Next one is, blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And this is one we like because we want peace, right? We all want peace in our life. I know this is teaching, y'all. I know it's like not like sermon preaching, but it's teaching. But I want you to get this one because I think it'll change your life if you really can understand it. Because it was something for me as a recovering people pleaser that took me a long time to fully understand. Because I was like, yeah, around me there's peace. I try to do everything to make sure there's peace. And so I struggle to really help people so that everywhere around me there can be peace. But I learned there's a big difference between being a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. You see, a peacekeeper will spin themselves up in circles trying to please everybody and make sure everybody has a happy face. And if they're not happy and not focused on, what can I do for you? What can I make sure is right for you? How can I take care of everything? And we'll wear ourselves out being a peacekeeper rather than a peacemaker, because peacekeepers avoid conflict. To be a peacemaker, it sounds countercultural, and it kind of is, but actually to be a peacemaker, we have to be okay with having some conflict in life. That we have to be willing to face it, not to avoid it. We sometimes spend so much time trying to not make waves that we actually create all kind of waves that we don't even fully understand. It's what's happening in our nation right now. Everybody is trying so hard not to offend somebody else that we can't get anything productive done because we're all just worrying and stressing out, and there's giant waves about to just wash over us because we're trying not to rock the boat. But we have to understand a peacemaker will walk into conflict and be willing to say all the words. That we won't run from hard situations. It was a learned behavior for me. This was not a part of my personality that I wanted, because I like to be joyful and fun. I like everyone to be happy and excited. But what happens is when we aren't willing to be an actual peacemaker, when conflict arises, we just leave the room. And then we look back, and like 20 years later, we still have never spoken to that person that we left the room with. And there's actually so much awkwardness and tension. And it didn't just happen between the two of us. It happened with all the circles of the people around us because we said, no, I don't want to have that conversation. No, I just want to stay here. That's too difficult. I don't want to do that. But a peacemaker will walk into conflict and say, I'm going to sit with you. And I'm going to listen. And I'm going to hear you all the way out. And then we're going to fix it. We're going to walk together through how we can solve this, how we can come to an agreement. And both parties have to be, in order to make peace, willing to talk and negotiate and actually talk it out. And Jesus is saying, be a peacemaker for me. He knew they were going to come against all kinds of things. But he said, if you'll learn to be a peacemaker, that's how they'll know you're a child of God. That's how you'll be called a child of God. If we don't agree, it's okay. Peace is still loving and sticking in the midst of disagreement. It's the only way marriage works. We disagree all the time. But we're willing to make peace with each other because the rhythm of the relationship is more important than keeping peace around us. Y'all, we have to be at More Church peacemakers. When conflict arises, we cannot leave the room and just say, I don't do drama. Because guess what? You're the drama. Not handling conflict, that's actually the drama. Because guess what happens? You go from church to church, mad, and then to the next one, and mad, and go to the next one, and then friend group to friend group, mad, and go to the next one, and mad, and go to the next one. And you listen, you can leave the room for a minute to like regain your meekness, but then step back into the room and handle the conflict. That's what Christ followers do. Okay, just being clear. So, here's the thing though, in this progression of the conversation that we're having today, is that when we live with a pure heart and we determine to make peace instead of just keeping the peace, there are times when it will lead to persecution. Matthew 5:10 says, blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, because you've accepted me, because you're a follower of me, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. This is not, I'm so persecuted because I sang or I served out in the lobby and I saw them come by with a camera and they took a picture, but then they posted that volunteer, not me. I'm so persecuted. That's not it. It's not it. I'm persecuted because I got that pay cut because I never finished the job that I started and I showed up late every time and I called in every third Friday so I could go to the lake and they just won't see who I am. I'm persecuted. This is not what it is. That's not what it is. Just to be clear. Persecution is when you say no to what's wrong even though everybody else is doing it. And you're willing to say, this is my line in the sand. This may cause some waves, but truth tells me that I'll be set free when I follow the truth rather than the world, rather than culture, rather than what the people around me are telling me I should do. And even though I'm drawing lines in the sand, I'm showing that I'm different. I am set apart. I know I'm going to lose some friends when I say yes to Jesus. I know that when I decide that's not how I'm going to act at the lake anymore on the weekends in the summer, but instead I'm going to determine I'll be in church every Sunday because I want more for my family and my kids than a good suntan and knowing how to drive a boat, then I understand that some people won't understand. But that's okay because I want what God has for me. I understand. I'm not going to cut the corners. And I know that means that I might get to the promotion sooner. Or less soon. I might not get to the promotion when I want because I won't cut corners, but I remember that God is for me and that He's the one who provides for me. And therefore, I will not succumb to what they want me to do. I will be willing to be persecuted for what I'm standing firm in. You know, I wish it was also only ungodly people who acted that way, who persecuted those of us who were doing what was right for Jesus, but sometimes we're persecuted because of what we believe, because of who Jesus is, the standard we hold for Him, and because we're the only ones willing to stand up and profess it and be firm and hold the truth to it. Rachel and I ran into my friend Craig Tipping this week and we said, how's it going? How you doing with the election and all the things, and I know it's stressful and I know it's hard. And the truth is, our friend, he's being persecuted because he's willing to say, this is the standard that God has for our lives, and this is what I'm gonna fight for our children, because it matters, because the future matters. And that's why Pastor and I are willing to say, hey, go make a vote that you should make, because it matters. That we stand up for what's truth, that we're willing to say, hey, this word is the map for our life, and this is how we're gonna follow it, even if it makes people mad. Okay, hope you like that and no one's mad at me. I'm just kidding. But it continues to say, blessed are you when people insult you, persecute you, falsely say all kinds of evil against you because of me. The truth is, when we really understand and hold on to the principles of who Jesus has called and created us to be, then we can walk uprightly knowing that we are doing it right. That even if they don't understand, that even if they say all the things, that we can lay our head down at night and rest and have peace, because we are actually walking in the righteous way that God has for us. It says, rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. For in the same way they persecuted the prophets who were before you. Jesus is like, this is not new. Like Jezebel chased Elijah around all over the place, trying to kill him. This persecution is not a new thing, but you better get used to it and understand it, because this truth, it's world-changing, it's revolutionary, and it's gonna tick some people off. And so you better be okay with it, but don't worry, because great is your reward in heaven. And our whole goal, our whole purpose is to walk, no matter what your job is. It's not just my job and pastor's job because we work here. That's not it. It's all of our job as followers of Christ to take on the character of God and to reflect him to those around us, so that we can fill heaven with more people who know the same truths. More people who understand his goodness. Rejoice and be glad, because great is your reward in heaven. Great is your reward in heaven when you see the people that you finally were bold enough to say, hey, come with me to more church on Father's Day. They're having some root beer and like some fun games outside, and it'll be fine. But can you imagine how incredible it will be in heaven one day when you see them and their children and their children's children and their children's children's children, because you were bold enough to say, hey, I want to invite you. Great is your reward in heaven when you understand that this life is very temporary. It doesn't last very long, but forever in heaven, we can rejoice and understand the truth. And so Jesus says, if you will just get this, it's just the beginning of a giant message that he's going to speak. He's about to tell them some hard stuff that they've got to understand. But he's like, I want you to understand that even through all of what I'm sharing with you, that you will be blessed. That this might feel heavy, but actually it's the freest way to live. That actually, if you'll pay attention to the next few things I'm about to say, that your life will change for the better. I'm not saying it'll be easy. I'm not saying it'll be perfect, but you will live a joy-filled, purpose-filled life, and together we'll rejoice in heaven one day, knowing that we did all that we could to glorify God and to bring other people to know him as well.